This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Oh boy. Oh boy. You think I want to start my Friday evening having another discussion about how the Mets did exactly what they pretty much done, what feels like more often than not, at least multiple times a week for the past month and for a good stretch this season. How you doing, Mets fans, wherever you're a fan of? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest Mets post-game show. I don't know if you want to call it a post-game segment, another vent session. Again, just a deep dive on not just this godforsaken game once again, because surely it's a lopsided affair as the Miami Marlins, one of the worst teams in all Major League Baseball, have now shut out games in 3 consecutive now, the first of which against the Mets here as they win by a whopping score 8-0. In tonight's show, I'll get into not only my frustration with the Mets' continued offensive struggles, but how I will argue that more changes need to be had with this team, and sooner rather than later, regardless of the fact that we're only at, May 17th, 2024, out of a 162, I do not care. Things need to be had, some changes need to be made, and David Stearns has started to make those changes, but one could argue that there are some more drastic ones to be had that are just going to be prolonged now on the waiting game for something that, again, is still going to be a foregone conclusion with some of these players. That, along with getting to all your live reactions here in the chat, as always, folks, as well, I'll be breaking down. If you're watching this live on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. The Mets might have not shown up tonight, but your boy Wardy certainly has. No matter, again, if it's rain, sunshine, and if it's doom and gloom in Mets land, or if everything's going right, we're always going to be covering the team here on the largest platform, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY. So hit those buttons. To all my live viewers here on Twitter, thank you so much as well. Hit those and make sure to know that we will only be interacting per usual with our live viewers here on YouTube. But again, I appreciate everyone for taking in the time. Event time again. You said it, Steven. This is not only an event session that I think we all need to have, folks, but just a further breakdown on the continuation, which has been mediocrity by this Mets team. And trust me when I say, yes, we have an understanding. We know that the Mets, even in a year like this where it's more of a transitionary year where they push for a wild card spot, they're going to have many losses this season. That might be true, but what is also true is that you can go about your losses better. You can go about your day-by-day baseball better. And what have the Mets done a tremendous job at this past month? Going back to their old ways all of 2023, and more so in the second half of 2022, after, once we got into August area, especially, just uninspiring, unentertaining baseball. If it isn't for walk-off heroics that we've seen, every now and then with the Mets over the past couple weeks, there has not been much enjoyment in Mets land. We have been looking at salvaging series just to make sure we're not swept every single matchup, no matter who we're facing. You face a Miami Marlins team tonight where Jesus Luzardo's a stud. I'll be the first to say that I would love him in Queens as well. A young, controllable southpaw that will not be in Miami beyond the trade deadline because Peter Bendix is going to fire sale these mofos. But before we get there, Jesus Luzardo is going to do what he does best, and that is carving up any solid team. In the case of the Mets here, you can even argue that calling them solid is, not the proper term with the way that they're currently playing, to say the least. But Luzardo being a competent southpaw, that is all you need to be your next Randy Johnson against this Mets team, because that's certainly how they're going to swing and miss and take it. And then you get onto the bullpen. Doesn't matter. This Mets team already knew the game was over by the time they gave up that 3-run bomb to Mr. Nick Fortes, who had a just around 350 OPS entering tonight's game. Nick Fortes goes on to be the killer of the game against the Mets here with 3 hits, including that 3-run bomb off of Christian Scott, who I love. Christian Scott, this is far and away his worst start so far in his major league career, playing to build off, playing to learn from. So we'll get into the pitching analysis on what stood out or really lack thereof with Christian Scott today. Why did he struggle so much with the sweepers? Anything to really deep dive there? Or is this just one of those days where he didn't have the proper grips going? We're going to get into that all. Trust me, everybody. But again, I appreciate you all taking the time. Just break up this course, says Scott. I'm done with this group. Scott has had enough. He's like, sayonara, out of here. Even Alonzo, I'm done, is what he says. Yoshima with the $5 holla. Thank you so much. Yoshima says, Terry Collins would not let this performance fly on a daily basis. And these players don't want to perform. There's players in AAA who do want to perform. While that is true, and I don't have any ill will with Terry, I don't necessarily know if we should use him as the example, considering Terry also was the manager of the Mets in many shit years. And let's also not forget that if it wasn't for the trade deadline in 2015, the Mets were treading water big time. They were far from an entertaining team, far from a team that played entertaining, inspiring baseball in that 2015 season prior to the Wilmer Flores drama, and prior to, of course, acquiring this big bat by the name, I don't know if you know him, Yoenis Cespedes, right? And then the rest was history from there. But yes, you are right in the sense that this shit should not keep happening without there being any type of repercussions. And obviously, I don't know what goes on in the clubhouse, especially for a first-time manager in Carlos Mendoza. It's not like he's going to go completely cutthroat at these guys right off the riff, understandably so, because he's still getting acclimated with his job as is. But Mendoza, who I have very little gripes with to this point in the season, he has been one of the few guys that has shown his care fully 100% every single game, day or night, sunshine or rain, it has not mattered. The viewpoint for Carlos Mendoza on hyping up the team, and again, just trying to be the best manager he can be. It's not Carlos Mendoza's fault that this offense can't hit a lick. If you're going to pinpoint anyone, it's the hitting coaches there in Barnes and Chavez, and that's where I think we need to start to have a little bit more of a discussion, folks. The Mets have made some significant changes to a degree over this past week, DFAing Joey Wendell, and of course, making some roster configuration with Jose Buto being sent down, Joey Lucchesi being up and being sent down right away because the spot start didn't go well there in Philly, and Tyler McGill will be getting the start this Sunday or Monday here. But yes, the pitching, okay, that hasn't really been the big bugaboo. Yes, of course, Kristen Scott wasn't fantastic by any stretch tonight, but when you don't score any runs, it doesn't matter if you're going to lose 1-0 or 10-0. The result is going to clearly still be the same, and this Mets team continues to show us why exactly we've had this built-up frustration that goes well beyond just so far the 2024 season. We understand that this Mets team is going to be a team where even when they're playing their best, we know that it's not going to probably last too long. That 12-3 run, I told how many of you Mets fans to enjoy it for however long it lasts, because that might be the best stretch the Mets have for a strong period of time, if not the whole season, folks. We somehow got through the majority of last season covering this team up until the deadline. Then we were all tapped out, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do the consistent post games until we actually have something to care about again. And I do not want this to be the case here, where we're going to be so repetitive day by day, night by night here on the channel with these post game segments that there isn't much more to add. There is plenty to get into from tonight's game, but it's a lopsided affair. The offense, of course, as a surprise to absolutely nobody, was a no-show. So I'm already starting to get stale with the content, not because I have a problem with what I'm doing, but because the Mets have a problem playing competent, pardon my French, again, earmuffs, kiddos, I'll give you a second, 3 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi. They have no fucking competency with their offense whatsoever. And when you have no competency, when you have nothing in unison, we heard David Stern say famously just yesterday at a presser how the same way that the Mets can certainly thrive off of each other and ride the hot bat when things are going right within guys within the organization, so the same can apply when things are going negatively, when they don't hit, and defensively when they basically get the yips and no one knows how to hit, no one knows how to do anything. And we have a greater problem here, because even if that is true to a degree, there's nothing to justify the underwhelmingness of this offense when you look at the talent on the roster. There is nothing to justify it. JD Martinez is showing how basically a good team should be, because JD Martinez is a hitting savant. There was a great article that came out earlier today through Newsday. My man Tim Healy, he knows how's it going. Shout out to you, Tim. A great piece on breaking down JDM's positive impact on the hitting approach for Pete Alonso now and others, and just giving them proper info and intel and insight with a hitting savant. But JDM, again, the Florida native, had himself 2 hits today. The only guy that seemed like he knew exactly what the hell he was doing. The rest of the line have nothing to show for it. And okay, if we want to start to go out with the expected numbers, the Mets had an expected batting average today as a whole of 286. Miss me with the bullshit, everybody. It doesn't matter. You got 0 runs. I don't care if, again, it was terrible luck throughout the whole game. There's nothing to justify going the whole game against the Miami effing Marlins, with the Marlins being the Marlins, with the 0 expectations they have for a team that will not be making playoffs. Their GM literally went out of his way to already say, we're not making playoffs. We will be in full sell mode. Basically, everyone's available. And yet this Mets team got absolutely walked all over on them. It's embarrassing, to say the least. And I know when I say embarrassing, I throw out that freaking word like it's candy, because it's so commonplace with this Mets team and being a fan of them, yet it still holds true. It's very frustrating to not only be a fan of the team when things are not going the way that you hope they are, but certainly in the position right now where We expect entertaining baseball. Just give us inspiring baseball. That is at minimum what you should be doing if you're the New York Mets here. And that is the last thing that they seem that they could put on a pedestal for us. They give us this steaming pile of shit you call an offense on a day-by-day, night-by-night. And should this continue, again, the Mets are going to dig themselves easily in a hole that even in a 162 will be very difficult to dig out of. And yes, anything is possible. Trust me, even if the Mets are 10 games back, there's not to say they can't go on a crazy run. But you already know the odds are so against you at that point that we're well aware of. And we know the Mets heading into the trade deadline will be in a position more than likely where they will be looming around 500 enough, hopefully no more than below 500 by, say, 5 games like how they started the season, where they may still consider to be buyers because they're just on the outside looking in the wild card currently. I know it means very little right now, but the same reason why I'm emphasizing this is because it still does matter to a degree. The Mets need to get some type of unison going. They have none of it whatsoever right now. And even when JDM is doing his thing, no one else around him seems to know what the hell they're doing. So this is where I start to call upon the hitting coaches even more. Chavez, Barnes, the Mets have 2 fucking hitting coaches on payroll. And what have they done? Absolute jack shit. They have done nothing positively to the degree to warrant them being on salary with the Mets right now. The same way that Omar Narvaez, you might as well arrest this man for literally fraud because he is taking on $8 million for being a guy worth not even $250,000. Of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but in all seriousness, it is beyond embarrassing some of the individual player performances we have on the roster to this point, along with, again, the lack of proper hitting approach. There are many guys on this roster that know how to hit and how to hit well. Yet for some odd reason, especially over the past year plus, they have completely lost this consistency vision, the ability to get on base and to grind out at bats. We saw that sliver in the 12-3 stretch where the Mets were looking great. But what didn't look great was the Mets' continued struggles against competent starters. How many of those games, even in the Mets' winning streaks this season when they were going right earlier this year, were they doing well against the starting pitching? Not many. And if they were, it's because those starters aren't that good. Jesus Luzardo, one of the better young southpaws in all the National League, of course he's going to eat up the Mets for breakfast. You should be foolish to suggest or think anything otherwise. So now we have ourselves a Mets team, once again, 4 games below 500, trying to see what they can do. And my response to this is unwatchable baseball. The only reason why I'm watching is because I'm a sicko in the head as a diehard young Mets fan. I cover them for a living, but outside of that, if those factors weren't applying, I would certainly be enjoying myself much more, even watching my Knicks, as they, last time I checked, were down by north of 10. I know things may have changed there since then. I'm going to be catching the rest of it, and we'll get into a little bit more on the Knicks here in the show as we get to our great sponsors at BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook, to see how they're looking at the live betting odds, along with my great friends at Sora MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there. You guys can check them both out by clicking the links down below in the description of the live show here on YouTube, and thank you all so much in advance. I apologize, everybody. I realize we're like 10 minutes of the show. I had to do a bit of a Wardy rant there before we even break things down because I'm so already fed up with the repetition of the nonsense with this Mets team. Again, like in a blink of an eye, the game started and the game ended. There's nothing to really take away as a positive here. And even Christian Scott, who I know struggled today, I still take him almost as a positive because at least we're seeing someone that we know has a mental toughness that worked out of a bases loaded, no-out jam today unscathed. That is something that, again, some very good pitchers in baseball can do. And while Christian Scott didn't have the performance that, the fellow rookie Mr. Paul Skeens did, obviously, in Pittsburgh, Christian Scott still is far from my biggest worries with this Mets team right now. My big worries is that you have a 1 through 9 that decides to wake up when they choose. When the starter comes out, once you get to the 7th, 8th inning, they're like, okay, we can start to do damage because we couldn't do anything against a starter. When are we going to become a metropolitan team and have a philosophy where you get up early and you get up often? We have seen slivers of this brilliance, but we have not seen it nearly to enough on a consistency basis to warrant wanting to watch this team day by day, night by night. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, to justify wanting to watch this Mets team at all this season thus far, outside of, again, if you're just a sicko of a diehard fan, like we all are right now. That's why we have over 700 concurrent viewers on YouTube and Twitter after the Mets get shut out once again, because you guys are in the same mindset as I am. We are sicko Mets fans at the end of the day. We want to see the team succeed. We want to be here when they succeed because we aren't fair weather fans. I hate the fans as well that, when things are going terrible, we're, say, multiple years as well, where a team's being being mediocre, they just, don't bat an eye to them. And then as soon as they start to get a run, they act like they've been here the whole time. That's what bothers me. It's okay to be, a casual fan, should you wish. It's okay to be a new fan of a team and to really hop on a bandwagon. You can make all your own decisions. But my goodness, us diehard Mets fans, we want to be genuine. We do not want to stop watching this Mets team. But the Mets continue to do everything in their power to give us all the reasons as to why we should do exactly that. Not watch them and enjoy our evenings with our family, our loved ones, or just do something a lot more enjoyable than sitting there for misery for 2.5 hours. Basically just 2 hours with the way these games are going so damn fast with the Mets not hitting a lick, guys. Last Saturday, when Christian Scott was looking strong against the Atlanta Braves, where he struck out 8, in 6+ innings, I didn't get to the game until, unfortunately, the third inning because terrible traffic, especially I'm from Pennsylvania. Absolute hike to get there. It was horrendous. A beautiful Saturday. Everyone's out in the city. It just was a cluster F to get there. We all know that. So, by time I was able to get acclimated and adjusted, couldn't even walk around the park, we were already in the bottom of the 5th, right? Before you knew it, it was the 9th inning because the Mets didn't have their first hit until the final out of the ball game. And the frustrating thing is that as crazy as that was, we have seen many games this season where the Mets have literally had little to no hits until we get to the latter half of the ball game. And that too needs to change. Tim Welsh in the chat, and my wife yells at me for watching every game. Exactly, because she knows you're just hurting yourself mentally and physically. Physically, because depending on where you are in your age group and the type of drinks you like, you might be resulting, doing something you don't necessarily want to do because the team's making you do that, if you catch my drift. In the same way, mentally, if you deal with any type of depression or anxiety as is, and I'm only half joking when I say this, when you get emotionally invested in a team, die hard, where you cover them, not just cover them, but watch them religiously, it impacts your psyche. I promise you. I thrive at my best in hand with how my teams do. Is that healthy? No, it's not. Yes, I know it's a problem, but it's just something that I have innate in me as a diehard fan. I can't help it. When my Mets are down, I am too down to a degree for various reasons. When they are up, I am absolutely up. Why? Because we're all hyped the hell up. We're having so much fun covering the team on the channel. We're going bananas with the Collins shows. We're going absolutely, bonkers. And we're enjoying entertaining baseball. That is yet again something that we don't have, and that is why I'm beyond fed up already with this team, and why I hope that more changes continue to be had here sooner than later, if not right away. Billy Dottie, thank you so much for the $5 haul. I appreciate that, my friend. Really does mean a lot. If you lose to the worst team in baseball, you're bad. Yes, Daniel, you can argue the Mets are 100% bad at the moment. My biggest peeve, says Steve in the chat, if you blink, you'll miss the Mets. 1.5 inning at the plate. 100%. Many games already this season. I just walked away for 2 seconds, came back, and it was already to the next half inning. How many times this year I come back from commercial and there's already an out on the board? 7 pitches later, inning over. You said it best, my friend. It happens so much, especially this season. And that's the one thing, too, that I will say that's beyond frustrating about this Mets team is that with the with the pitcher's clock and everything, what I knew 100% became a reality right away. When you're watching at home, it can be enjoyable. If you want a faster paced game, it can be a little bit overbearing if your team doesn't hit the way that the Mets certainly don't almost every single night at this rate. But let alone attending a game, going out of your way to attend a game if you're not living in the area. I mean, I was only at Citi Field for like an hour and a half, it felt like, for the most part, before I was out of there. That too is a problem. And that goes back to the pitching clock. That's a bigger discussion beyond just the Mets here. But the point still applies. It is frustrating the amount of times that we've seen this Mets team, again, be already an inning or two later than what you thought that they would be because they're just going down in order so quick. I mean, the fact that the Mets have had many at-bats this season, just a couple days ago, wasn't long ago, where they went down in order where it was a 3-pitch inning while Marte got on base. Like, how do you do that? Like, the Mets are breaking records right now in the worst way possible. I think that's the best way to discuss it. Boycott? I mean, hey, if you guys want to boycott going to games, you do you, boo. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going out of my way for a Mets game at the moment. For sure not. Well, I will not be at a Mets game again until sometime in June at absolute earliest, because there's nothing to justify going any sooner right now, especially in my current position with it. Now, I got a baby on the way too, so priorities first, rightfully so. Pat Mets, thank you for the $20 donation. I appreciate that. Pat Mets says 1/4 of the season and the Mets are showing 2022 was the anomaly and 2023 2023 is what the team is. You know I love this team, but this core needs to be broken up. Pete is turning more a Kingman type, and maybe it's time to move on. We are even getting fans and I'm talking about diehard fans like Pep Metz, who's been a loyal member, loyal follower on the channel for years, now saying that they're even willing to part ways with Pete Alonso. That is how bad things are getting, folks. And the worst part, the Mets continue to play like this, we're all going to be on the wavelength of considering trading Alonso by the deadline. How can you not be? Because as much as we love Pete, and as much as I have personal attachments like Michael Conforto, for example, everybody, if you're a recurring viewer on the channel, you may know this. I love Michael Conforto. Conforto was my favorite player on the Mets from the time he was called up back in 2015. I've always had that personal attachment with him, especially as a very young fan, really idolizing, looking up to a guy like him. Also, his number's 30. Number 30 was one of my favorite numbers growing up because Henrik Lundqvist, I'm a big Rangers fan. Shout out to my Rangers fans out there when he got number 30 there. So there were multiple reasons why, especially as a young fan, I like Conforto, sweetest swing in baseball, I'd argue, when, of course, he's barreling baseball as well. But Conforto, as much as I was upset to see the Mets part with him, I understood. And now, as we're getting on to the conversation of Alonso, I do not want to see Pete go. And I think there's absolutely a world where the Mets can win and have Pete Alonso involved in that. But the sad thing is, I don't know where that world is, and I don't know exactly where that world begins. Does it officially begin in 2025? Should you bring back Alonso, sign him to a long-term deal, and make some significant moves for the better this offseason to better your club to be a win-now stage for 2025 and beyond? That is very much so a possibility, but is that reality? Again, we simply do not know right now. All we know is what we're seeing with our eyes, and what we're seeing with our eyes for the past year and a half, north of 2 years, is dog shit baseball. It is absolutely horrendous. And trust me, even I, at this point into now covering the team, I've started in December of 2020 when Steve Cohen bought the Mets. I can assure you that I did not think that these multiple years later that we would be in the position talking about a lot of the same issues, not so much organizationally, but more so, again, with the hitting philosophy itself. Because the Mets have been an anemic offensive team for many, many years. The majority of my lifetime they have been. Not much has changed since then. We have just seen the flashes of brilliance, and those flashes are so euphoric because as a fan that gets so little, you're like the poor kid on the side of the street that gets a couple breadcrumbs, and you'll take that for what it is because you don't have any better option at the moment. But one day, you get the whole loaf tossed at you, you're feeling awesome. But that loaf only comes, once every 2 months because the chef was feeling generous and not being the schmuck that he usually was every single day with just the crumbs. You get what I'm trying to say here? It has been frustrating, to say the least, to watch this team. And I love them. I do. I always will. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be all aboard what they're going on right now. Because what they're doing right now is a whole lot of nonsense. And I am absolutely beyond bothered having to watch this team every single day right now. Bill Dottie, thank you so much for the donation. Let's see. What would you do at this point? Personally, what I would do, I would make a change up with the hitting coaches. At minimum, I would have a heavy discussion if I'm Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns, get together, have these discussions, everybody, because I know that, one firing will not necessarily make a drastic difference, but in the case of the Mets hitting philosophy, there's nothing to justify why things are going to be a hell of a lot better than what they currently are. Like, we haven't seen that. There's nothing for us to believe that because, again, 2022 was an anomaly, and 2022 was only a little bit more than half a season. That's another thing as well. 2022, they won 101 games. Yes, they were more consistent than years prior, but that year in itself was still very much so an anomaly. The same way that the Mets 2023, I'd argue to a degree, was an anomaly where a lot of things went wrong in various ways, but uninspiring baseball. The one thing we can say about the Mets, even when they've had some doom and gloom years, is that they've been this underdog, pesky Mets team where we've seen them, fall short like in 2019, not because they didn't have awesome second half heroics, but it was because Edwin Diaz in his first year in Queens, unfortunately, slight similarities right now, not too much, but some, struggled mightily, and the Mets couldn't handle one save or the bullpen to save their life, and that was their demise in 2019. That in a rotation outside Jacob deGrom knowing what the hell they were doing, right? We were all there. I'd assume that we were, right? So, that's where I'm at. Hi, Ward, congratulations on you becoming a FOT. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate that greatly, my man. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to you, brother. Happy to have you in the chat. Let's see, Dave. Thank you so much for being here. Rangers will play Panthers in an Eastern Conference Final. I don't know what the status on that game is, but I'm assuming the Panthers ended up winning. If so, that's crazy. That's going to be a crazy matchup, and I cannot wait to see it happen. I appreciate all my live members first chiming in live on a replay. If you're a new or a recurring viewer and haven't already, hit those buttons. Thank you all so much in advance to my over 800 concurrent viewers at the moment. We got roughly 300 here live on YouTube. We're halfway to 100 likes as well. Smash those buttons. Thank you all so much, folks. I can continue to go on a ranting spree, but before I get on to breaking down the ball game, because there is some key things I do want to share with you all, just about the game. We'll break it down briefly, very brief, inning by inning. I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what we saw from Christian Scott, the offensive woes. Is there anything to build off of this whatsoever? And really, again, what is the mentality for the Mets heading into not only the rest of this series against Miami, but this road trip? You're in Miami. You're in Cleveland. I'm going to yell for 1 second, everybody. So if you would like to take a moment to lower the volume on your phones, your headphones, your computer, by all means, go ahead. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to do so before I go on an absolute heater for a second, before we get into one of our awesome sponsors on the channel. Then I'll break down things inning by inning for you all. So I'll give you 1 second. You have 3 games in Miami. You have 3 games in Cleveland. There is nothing to justify, and I fucking mean nothing to justify losing either of these series. None. Nada. And the worst part, I guess, is if that does happen, which very well may and probably will happen at this rate, what do? There's nothing to do. We just have to deal with it and then hope the team digs himself out of the fucking hole. But this is what I mean. You're 4 games below again, right? I know you're going to seesaw a lot this season. David Stearns knows we're going to seesaw a lot this season. He adopted this roster where we all knew 2024, pushing for playoffs, but it's easier said than done. I still firmly believe the Mets can get to that point, because the fact of the matter is the Mets have played horrendous baseball for good stretches this season. When I say horrendous baseball, I would like to emphasize this is not a collective unit with the pitching staff and the offense. This has been heavily on the offense. The pitching staff, the biggest bugaboos have been the walks and stolen bases. That has lost the Mets some games this season. But what has lost the Mets games more than anything by far this year has been this anemic, godforsaken offense that thinks that they know better than what they are right now, because they're not. They are not nearly as good as what they think, and I cannot stand anyone that has any ego behind them whatsoever. So I hope that there aren't too many of those, because that will really grind my gears. And there are still some guys on this roster getting at-bats every single day. And I'm wondering, why are we doing this? For people wondering, why aren't you going to part ways with Francisco Lindor? One, Lindor is a tremendous talent when he's right. We all know this. I have confidence that he will get out of his funks that he's been, and we know that. But also, the big reality, regardless on where you stand with Francisco Lindor, he's never going to go anywhere anytime soon. That contract is too big, and the Mets have too much invested in him to consider otherwise. May they consider otherwise in the near future over the next couple years, should things become a bigger problem with him? Of course, but right now, there's nothing that they can do, nor should they really do, because while there are a lot of guys that you can pinpoint and be frustrated at, for sure, including Lindor at times this season, we also need to realize that those are guys that we know can and have carried us before and will do so again. We just have a major problem, going back to what David Stern said, how when some guys aren't hitting, it's like infectious. It's like a disease. Same with that freaking stomach bug, as, Brandon's probably shitting his brains out over the past day or so. Pardon my French. It's something going around. Okay, I get it if it goes around, but how long is it going to go around? Because this kind of shit went around all season. I mean, seriously. Did the Mets not take their vitamins last year? Did they not, take any, what did they not do right? I just don't understand, and that's where, again, you can pinpoint, I think, more than anything on the coaching staff, specifically the hitting coaches that have been here. Barnes has been here the past 3 years. Chavez has been here the past 3 years. At what point do we say, cut weight, get out of here, we don't need you, bye-bye, sayonara? Because as much as I like Eric Chavez as a person, a former player, there's been a lot of appealing things about him. What I am not appealed by is the current status of the Mets, and has been. And at the end of the day, I want what is best for the Mets far more than I'm caring about any personal feelings with anyone in the organization. So when you come to that conclusion, I think we're all on the same common consensus here. Do what needs to be done. If the Mets are going to continue to play like this, especially for the remainder of the month and then some getting into June, where their offense is really this brutal consistently, David Stearns needs to put his foot down and make a change because these are not even his hires. So it's not like he has these attachments to them the way that he say will to a degree with Carlos Mendoza, right? It's not the same with guys that are coming from the Billy Upper era or guys, even say coming from the Zach Scott era. It's not like that. So all the more reason for David to be cutthroat when need be, if not already, and say, hey, I'm putting my foot down. Enough of this shit. We're going to try to mix things up and go a different direction. Steven, thank you so much for the donation. Steven says, Mendoza needs to yell at players, give them a kick. I'm sure Mendoza says a lot of things. And again, Mendoza is not the concern for me. The concern for me is a lot of the other things going on with this team right now. Daniel, thank you for the comments. Daniel says, Wardy, why didn't you tell me don't put down 50 on Scott over 4.5? Trust me, you're not the only one, buddy. I had my dumbass had Kristen Scott at 6+ Ks today. We're not going to disclose the dollars, but yes, literally 6+ Ks. So, and he got 3. It is what it is. I was feeling cocky. My simple rationale was like he struck out 8 against the Braves. Why wouldn't he at least strike out 6 against Miami? It seems like it makes sense, but baseball will throw a wrench in there and give you something maybe that you weren't necessarily prepared for or thinking about. But, alrighty, folks, we talked about everything that needed to be talked about there. Let's hop into one of our amazing sponsors on the channel real quick. Just give me 1 second, everybody. Make sure you have this pulled up for you all. We're actually going to hop in and check out our great friends here at BetUS in 1 second because I want to show you guys, again, BetUS. BetUS, for those that don't know, America's #1 sports book. Please make sure to check them out today in case you haven't already for all your sports betting needs. But make sure you guys and gals also bet responsibly. Do not bet without making sure you know what you're getting yourself into and be safe in doing so. But I'm not going to look at the baseball slate. We're going to look at the live betting odds right now because the New York Knicks right now, as we speak, are about to be 11 to 12 points behind the Pacers here in the third. And this is where things get very, very interested for me personally. And again, we're going to show you guys the Knicks right now, what we got going with them and their game matchups. Give me 1 second, everybody. And this thing will load for me, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have currently... I don't know why. Where are the let's put up here's live betting. My bad, everybody. Let me get this loaded for 1 second. Live betting currently going on with the New York Knicks, as we will see here. The Knicks at the moment, they're looking, again, if you're going to be live betting, if you want to hammer the Knicks, now's the time to do it because the odds are in your favor. We look at game total points here as well. We look at the spread, including overtime. Right now, the Knicks at plus 10.5 are a minus 117. I promise you, I have very much so a strong confidence. The Knicks, even if they lose this game, will not lose by 10 points. So if you put 117 down there, that's basically locked at 100. Now it's at minus 103. So this is, again, ever-changing here for the Knicks. And while, of course, I hope and pray that they win, nothing is certain. Deuce McBride just strained another 3 because he's an absolute dog. But again, Knicks at plus 10.5 right now is at minus 103. I'm going to hammer them at plus 10.5. We're going to do the live betting. Again, if it doesn't hit, that's okay. These are the risks involved when you, of course, are live betting. But we are going to put down 103 then to win. Actually, no, we'll do 50. We'll do 50 then to win, and we'll place that bet. That will be 50. The odds just changed 1 second. So give me 1 sec. They just changed to plus 112. Not complaining there. Again, that's even more favorable for me, if anything else. Let me just get this all pulled up, and then we will place it. So 50 to win 49. That is what we are going to be hammering. So again, good luck to you all, to anyone that will be trailing, placing those bets as well. And make sure to check out our great friends again at BetUS. BetUS, again, one of the things I absolutely love about them is the awesome promo that we got going on right now. By you guys clicking up to sign up today, get a 125% bonus with code JOIN, JOIN 125 with your first 3 deposits. So if you deposit $100, you'd automatically get $225 to work with. It is that easy with our great friends there at Sower MLB. But as we hop back into the both of them as well. Oh my goodness, disaster. My apologies, folks. I did not mean for all that to run at the same time. That's on me, per usual. I apologize. But we're 30 plus minutes in the show now. Let's do a quick breakdown on the game, actually what happened inning by inning, and then we'll get on to wrapping things up because there's not much more to add on there, as unfortunate as it is. The Knicks are also currently down 79-64 with 5 to play. Pacers have the largest lead of the game, and the Knicks there are trying to get a foul. I believe that they did. That was a bizarre play with Precious. Not sure. But let's break down the ball game now, folks. Let's get into it. The epic intro, yes. Again, I apologize for all those intros running a second ago, folks. My bad. But I appreciate everyone taking the time on a Friday night to want to hear a schmuck like me talk about a team that's playing absolutely horrendous baseball. Really does mean a lot. So thank you so much for that. It means I'm doing something right at least. But as we get to the top of the first, everybody, to begin things off with 2 outs, Lindor with a single, JD Martinez. All right, so this is what I mean, everybody. This is the Mets in a nutshell. At the first effing inning of the ball game, they had 2 on with 2 out. They already had a runner in scoring position in the first effing inning, and they managed to go the entire ball game without scoring 1 measly run. The Mets also had runners on the corners with 1 out later on this ball game and did nothing with it. So as we take a look now, again, the Mets do nothing there in the first. In the bottom of the first, Brian De La Cruz with an infield single. Bell with the double play would end the inning, so Kristen Scott gets through his first inning of work clean. In the bottom of the second, Sanchez with a single, Gordon with a single, Lopez with an RBI sac fly, Brujan with a single, and Fortes with a 3-run home run. Fortes took a sweeper that was, again, middle up. Perfect meatball for him to rip to left. Pissed me off like hell because Kristen knew right away. He just hung that thing, unfortunately. And that gave me PTSD from when David Pearson gave up a bomb to Nick Fortes a couple years ago. If you remember, guys, remember Miami, like during the summer, I think it was like June or July, and the Mets lost that game. I want to say it was like a 2-1 game. Nick Fortes will live rent-free in my head because of that game and because of him having himself 3 hits today, which is ridiculous for, of course, a guy who had a 350 OPS entering this game. How do you get shut out 8-0 to Miami? Step right up and meet the Mets. Da-da. Prop bet on when the next Mets win theme is played. There you go, Eddie. Yep, smart thinking. Dodgers fan, love the channel. Thank you so much, my friend. Happy to have you in here. If you're a Dodgers fan listening to a Mets fan talk about a loss here on a Friday night, I don't know what kind of better plans you could have had. All jokes aside, happy to have you in here. Let's get on now. We talked there about the 4-0 deficit already. Kristen Scott hung that one, unfortunately. Struggled with his command with the sweeper today. In the bottom of the third, Bell with a single. Sanchez with a hit by pitch. No one scores there, though. In the bottom of the fourth, Lopez reaches on a error by McNeil. Brujan with a single. Fortes with a walk. So just like that, again, it's bases loaded, no out. But unfortunately, the Mets were fortunately, Kristen Scott worked some Houdini magic and escaped that jam unscathed. As we then get to the 5th inning, Harrison Bader with a single, McNeil with a single. Get ready, folks. 0 offense, no runs. Of course not. In the bottom of the 5th, Walker comes in for a Jake Berger double he gives up. That's all she wrote. So again, Christian Scott's final line today, everybody. I would like to know the writing you're going to have for him. Actually, we'll get to that in a second. We'll continue breaking down the ball game. Then I'll get on to the pitching. I'll get to your donation then too, Zach. Thank you so much for that, my man. Next game absolutely cooked here in the third quarter, so they need to get something going or they're going to take it back to game 7 for the Garden, and all my bets are going to miss today. For thinking +5.5, +6 is good. Right now, it's not looking too hot as, we're going to be down, like 15 points. Not great, but we move on. We push forward here. We see in the top of the 6th, JD Martinez with a single. JDM had 2 hits today. In the bottom of 6th, Brujan with a walk. Fortes with a single. Walker has a wild pitch, which allows a run to score. Josh Walker, the southpaw, was called up 48 hours ago or so for Joey Lucchesi, who was sent back down. And Josh Bell with a double, and no one scored else there. So it's 5-0. Grant Hartwood comes in the 7th. He works a clean 7th there. The Mets would go on to give up a couple more runs later on the ball game. They do nothing offensively, and that is, again, your final score. 8-0. I appreciate that donation a lot. Thank you so much, Zach. Zach says, can we talk about something other than this team which still unites us? Which SNY commercials are the worst? That's a good question. I mean, for me, it's a little tough because anytime commercials are on, I'm looking at my phone right away or I'm on my computer. So I don't really know. Okay, there's one that always pops in my head right away, but I don't know if it's an SNY commercial or this is more MSG. But this commercial has been going on for so long, and I just cannot stand it because it lives rent-free in my effing head. 1-800 something like that. Cars for Kids. I cannot stand the Cars for Kids. Cars for Kids with a K. Not that there's anything wrong with the product or what they're promoting, but I just cannot stand that effing commercial. I just can't do it. I won't do it. I choose not to. I muted it if anything. Love it when you visit DMAC and Dodgers Nation. Yeah, love me, DMAC. DMAC is a fantastic Dodgers YouTuber. They do a great job there at Dodgers Nation. Fantastic platform. But let's get into breaking down a little bit now on the pitching because of the hitting. I mean, what else is there to say, everybody? This is the hitting. This is donuts. Homer Simpson's happy because he has a lot to eat. Look at all these zeros. Bullshit. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. Just look at that offense. When you had, Mets had 6 hits today? Somehow. Truly somehow. I have no clue how they managed to get 6 hits, but they did. Don't care that our expected batting average was 278. Need to be better. Horrendous. Pitching-wise. Let's get in this. You monster. It's 1877 cars for kids. Yep. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. It ruins my evening when the Mets already made it so much worse. Okay. Sorry, folks. Oh, that's funny. All right. Twitter, you gonna load for me? I need to pull up something, Twitter. Thank you. Shout out to my man Isaac Groffman on Twitter. Make sure to follow him, everybody, because Isaac Groffman just came out with a fantastic, and I mean fantastic, thread breaking down what is going wrong with Edwin Diaz. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to read up on it. Awesome Twitter thread from my man Isaac Groffman, who is a daily pitching analysis reporter here for WardyNYM. Helps give me insight for things that maybe that are beyond the eye test one, and just a lot of information that comes from Baseball Savant, and again makes it easier for me to display and break down for you all rather quickly in our post-game segments. But Isaac, great job as always, brother. With Christian Scott today, again, that we saw with the 4 innings of 7 hit, 4 earned run ball, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and 84 pitches, over 4 ERA now this season for Christian Scott. But as we get into the arsenal, the 4-seam fastball was 48% of the time, gyro slider 32% of the time, splitty 13% of the time, and sweeper 7% of the time. Scott did not use his sweeper as much today, 7% tonight, whereas he has been using 20% in his overall starts. And when you throw that sweeper up high, therefore, unfortunately going to be ripped. That goes in hand. You get scared off a bit. Had 0 whiffs on the sweeper today. That's the big thing. Christian Scott, who's thrived with the sweeper being one of his better put-out pitches, had no whiffs on it today. The Marlins just read him like a book, unfortunately, and that's where he had his demise early on. He had been averaging 15 inches of horizontal movement on the sweeper, but averaged just 8 today. So again, the sweeper just wasn't going right for multiple reasons. As a result of this, his gyro slider was up, but it also wasn't getting as many whiffs. 30% whiff rate over the first 2 starts, but only 23% today. The splitty is still not getting enough depth to the whiffs, so that's something to keep an eye on. The splitter is still a pretty new pitch for him, so let's bear that in mind. And I can tell you, again, this is from Isaac as well, from my own experience as a pitcher in high school, that is very hard to throw a good splitter from a lower arm angle like Scott's, since it is harder to get on top of the ball and therefore get depth on the pitch. That's a great point of insight there from Isaac as well, because I played baseball when I was younger, but I did not play baseball growing up, let alone in high school. Believe it or not, actually, just out of curiosity, I wonder, what sport do you guys think I excelled at the most in high school? Well, that's the question of the day. That is the most important question we have in this live stream. Not the Mets, because the Mets gave us a whole lot of nothing today. Let's have fun with it. If I haven't said it already, what is the sport that I thrived with far and away the most in my life as an athlete? Let me know. If you guys guess it right, you get yourself some brownie points there. But we see the Marlins took advantage of Scott's aggressiveness with the end of the zone action. Scott is not going to walk you. Took full advantage, and that's why he got barreled hard the way he did today. And again, overall for Christian Scott, I'll give him a 5.5 out of 10. My man Isaac gave him 6 out of 10. I'll give him 5.5, just because struggled with the sweeper today. Really got no whiffs. So again, a start to build off of. It's good to have early adversity, not opposed to that. It just stings more when the offense can do nothing to back him up. Christian Scott should be 2-1 so far this season, and not just having now this loss on his resume when his past 2 starts should have both been wins, but with no offense to show for it. On the bullpen, seemed like Mendoza waved the white flag after being down 4-0. Again, I tend to agree there, especially with the amount, not using many relievers, over that stretch once he's out of the game. Walker and Hartwig, both faced hitters they should not be facing, were forced to innings. Yep, that's 100% true, and really not anything else there to add on the pitching front, folks. So let's see. Okay, so funny enough, I did play ice hockey my senior year of high school, but that was only a one-off. It was not something I consistently did. Let's see if we get here. What's his Twitter? His Twitter is at Isaac, ISAAC, Groffman, GROFFMA. Actually, I'll just pull up Isaac's Twitter for you guys. Isaac will appreciate the shout, because him and I are working together. We're having a lot of fun. I just want to show you guys real quick. Give me 1 second. I'll do that right about now. Okay, this is Isaac's for those that maybe haven't seen before. Isaac Groffman. Make sure to give him a follow, guys, if you haven't already. Awesome, awesome young man. He's tremendous with his pitching analysis. He does great threads like this. He was really the first to put a lot of people on the map to Jonathan, who's already now pitching for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, who's looking fantastic. Young 20-year-old right-hander is taking the minors by storm. This awesome thread he came out with earlier today on what's wrong with Edwin Diaz. Make sure to check it out. Basically, it reiterates a lot of what I've been telling you guys in the post game, where, you know, the pitches certainly haven't been there to the same degree in 2022. No, Edwin isn't cooked, nor is he the 2022 Edwin either, but Isaac does go on and breaking down how there's still plenty of faith to believe that Edwin can get back to either that 2022 self or very close with all the adversity that he's faced so far with his time in Queens. Now he's been able to overcome it. If there's one thing that's been certain about Edwin Diaz, it has been his mental toughness and his ability to not let things get too hard on himself. You know, he's went through a lot of emotions throughout his Mets tenure, and so far, you got to give credit where credit's due, because he has definitely went through a lot and has overcome a lot of adversity. I'm sure he will overcome plenty more, and I appreciate, again, the great thread there from Isaac. So make sure to check him out, guys, in case you haven't already. Great young man. Awesome stuff. Let's see. Soccer, 100%. Yep. 100% right. Yep. Your boy played travel soccer for multiple years. That's 100% true. Crow says picking up chicks. I like the way Crow speaks. But no, soccer was a thing. Was also on my fitness team in high school, which basically means you do Marine training. So for 3.5 years, I was on the fitness team where you do push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, crunches, sprints, long jump, frog jump, and you're tested and timed and counted for, and you compete against other high schools. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was fitness, soccer, ice hockey senior year, because I always wanted to play and I got a chance to. And baseball, I haven't played in a long time, but I played, did participate in basically a game against D1 players in Appalachian League. So it's not technically minor league players, but it's very close to, because they're D1 kids. The Sock Puppets a couple years ago with a bunch of YouTubers, Bros versus Pros. So that was fun, taking like 95 plus right down the pipe, and also taking a slider off the plate for a ball. Very, not trying to brag, but the fact that my first pitch I took against a D1 pitcher on a pro team, took that bad boy for a ball. That's a pretty big flex for a guy with the lack of baseball experience that I have. Seriously. I'm going to play baseball? No. I haven't played baseball consistently. No, haven't since I was young. Pickleball wasn't invented yet. Nope. I haven't even played pickleball yet. I know that's a big trend. I know a lot of people love pickleball. They do, for sure. Got a new song for the Mets. It's called Beat the Mets. No, guy's killing me. I played travel soccer with Tim Howard, North Brunswick High School, class of 1997. Love to hear that, Scott. That's a flex. Wardy, another DeGrom when no one hits. Feel sorry for Scott. I know. It sucks. Not that he had at all a DeGrom type performance tonight, but still sucks that he's getting no run support whatsoever his first 3 starts and the bigs. But that, unfortunately, is a reality with the Mets team right now. The same way that's a reality that your boy wants to finish his evening by hopefully watching the Knicks play better basketball than what they're currently doing heading into the 4th quarter. So, folks, that is going to do it for the live show. I'd like to thank you all so much for taking the time to watch and listen tonight. We will be back live again very soon here on the channel, either tomorrow, maybe a little bit later after the game. It might be like yesterday, where it might not be immediately after the game. Got a lot of things going on early day tomorrow, but rest assured, we're going to try to come out with coverage, and then, unless something holds up and I'm not back at it till Sunday, regardless, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And again, thank you all so much for watching. Really does mean a lot. Mike says I played travel soccer with who in kindergarten? Let's see, with Messi in kindergarten. Oh, I'm sure, Mike. Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Thank you guys again. Appreciate it. The Mets might suck right now, but you guys don't. I'll see you all